Good morning, Finger Lakes. It is a beautiful Monday morning. The sun's shining, and the forecast is sun on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Heading into the 70s for the weekend. I think spring may have finally sprung here in the Finger Lakes, and I'm excited about it. Also excited to be joined today with Dave Barnick. Welcome back to the studio, Dave.
Great to be back, as always, with you, Jim, and looking forward to today's show and the warmer weather finally upon us.
So we're obviously filling in for the Web Dog this week. Next week, Web Dog will be back with Wes Greco to talk Geneva disc golf. You ever played disc golf?
Never have.
I actually have played. It's a fun little game. It's a nice walk in the park, I guess.
I see George Costanza in one of the Seinfeld episodes did that, but
that's right. He was a disc golf player, but it's a fun game, and I guess in Geneva they're expanding their disc golf course. So Wes Greco will be in next week to talk about it. But this week is just you and I, and plenty to talk about. Kentucky Derby.
Kentucky Derby, yeah. That was for one of the few times in recent years the favorite actually won. And I don't know much about horse racing, but from watching that event, let me put it out on the line now. I'm saying we're going to have our first Triple Crown winner in several decades.
That is bold because there's been a few horses that have put a nice run at it over the past decade or so. Big Brown was probably the one that they were considering him a shoo-in almost going into the last race. And Smarty Jones won the first three or the first two. But it's difficult. It may be one of the most difficult things in sports to do, to win the Triple Crown.
Well, the nice story about California Chrome, as we were talking before airtime, is that the owners basically took a big gamble on this horse, putting their life savings into it, and to continue to race this horse, who between the mother and father of California Chrome cost a total of $10,000, which is like peanuts, and they brought this horse up, and clearly the best horse. They turned down a $6 million offer for half interest in the horse because they believed and that they had something very, very special. And now all that work and all that faith is obviously paid off, and it'll be the odds-on favorite in the Preakness.
Yeah, and that's the way it works in horse racing. Though you get a horse that wins the Derby, and that becomes America's horse, and they root for it in the next race, and then hopefully for the Triple Crown. I'm not. Weber's a big horse guy. He likes all the races. I'm a Triple Crown guy. That's about it for me. I'll watch the Triple Crown races, but that wasn't all that happened this weekend. There was like an unbelievable amount of Game 7s in the first round of the NBA playoff.
Yeah, 3 on Saturday, I believe, and 2 yesterday. And the one, they had a possibility of having 6. And the one that didn't go 7 games, an incredible shot by Portland to beat Houston at the buzzer. I was kind of rooting for Kevin McHale and the Houston Rockets. I think that's Jeremy Hunt's team as well.
It is.
And as much as I hate to say it, things are breaking very nicely for the well-rested Miami Heat to defend their title as things go forward. But the other crazy thing, of course, about the NBA playoffs, and all the experts are saying, this is the best first round ever because of the excitement and the length of the playoff series in the first round, is that you can be talking about this for another month or so before they even get to the finals.
Yeah, it's the second season. You know, it's too long if you ask me. Or either that or the regular season of the NBA is too long. But they went back to 7-game series for the first round instead of 5, and the main reason they extended is for money. Obviously, they make more money having more of these games on TV, and it must have been a financial windfall to have all these series go, 7 games.
The crazy thing in the Nets, I was, of course, being a diehard Boston Celtic fan, I closely follow Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. The tank's pretty low, I think, with Garnett, although he had his moments. But Pierce securing the victory with a blocked shot. Not a made shot. like he's done so many times in his illustrious career, but a block shot at the buzzer to send the rabid Toronto fans home very disappointed. And they turned out in huge numbers. I don't know if you saw any of those scenes.
Yeah.
But they had 10,000 people outside of the gym facility of which they play and to root on their team. But the Nets against the Miami Heat, even though the Nets are 4-0 against the Heat in the regular season, I think all bets are off on that continuing. Miami should prevail, but I hope the Nets give them a tussle.
I think that one of the things that makes this NBA playoffs a little more intriguing than other years is that it's all wide open. I mean, literally anybody out of the West could win.
Yeah, they really could, and of course, how far? Fortunately, we went a few minutes before we mentioned the words Donald Sterling, but the Clippers are considered one of the favorites, one of the potential title contenders, and of course they have their story. They squeaked by a Golden State Warrior team, which has risen from the ashes in the last 2 years under Mark Jackson, and word is he's going to be out of a job because the owner doesn't like him. Even though the players love playing for him, and he went dramatic improvements both years. You got Portland coming off that great series win against Houston, as we mentioned. But I think the path really does go through San Antonio. Probably the league's best coach. They're a deep team, and they struggled. They had their moments struggling against Dallas, but yesterday they annihilated the Mavericks. They could have written in the score. It was a great victory. But, a key injury here. Some dramatic baskets at the end. Any of those teams can emerge.
And it seems like even though these games all went to Game 7, the favorite ended up winning all of them.
Yeah, with a possible exception, I guess, in the East of the Washington Wizards. But as soon as that series got into the second game, everybody was then discounting Chicago, saying, great coach, get the most out of their talent, but just not that good of a team talent-wise. Also be interesting to see if Carmelo Anthony, as many have speculated, may join the Chicago Bulls next year. And if Rose were to come back even at 75-80%, along with Noah, the Defensive Player of the Year, they would be formidable. But that's getting ahead of ourselves.
I want to see Carmelo stay in New York. I'm a Knicks. I wouldn't say I'm a Knicks fan. I'm not really a huge NBA fan of any team, but when Pearl Washington went to the New Jersey Nets, I liked the Nets, and when Deion went to Cleveland last year, I kind of rooted for Cleveland a little bit. But when Carmelo went to New York, if I had to choose any team, it would be the Knicks. And so when Carmelo went there, now finally I'm invested in the Knicks and watching the Knicks on TV. And they didn't wasn't very satisfying.
Yeah, the interesting thing, Kevin Durant is expected to get the Most Valuable Player award this year for Oklahoma City Thunder. And as they had struggled to get by Memphis, a team who really, I think, the NBA overdid it with their punishment of Zach Randolph and not allowing him to play in Game 7. But anyway, after one of the losses, the Oklahoma City newspaper had the headline referring to Durant as Mr. Unreliable. They ended up apologizing for that.
Yeah.
Now, had that been New York and Carmelo Anthony just completed what for almost anywhere else, everyone would say, what an outstanding season this guy had. And he really, if you look at his statistics and his effort, he had a great year. But the Knicks were so bad that he's getting lambasted in the media. Yeah,
and that's how it works in the NBA. You're a star league, and so if you're going to want to be an elite player, a Kobe Bryant or a LeBron James, then not only you got to put up the numbers, but you got to help your team win. And now if you took Kevin Durant off of Oklahoma City and put Carmelo Anthony there, or if you took LeBron off of Miami and put Carmelo there, they're both playoff teams still. But and now if you took Carmelo out of New York and exchanged him with Kevin Durant, does New York make the playoffs? I don't think so. I think they're just a bad organization.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, I think without Carmelo on that team, they're fighting Philly for the league's worst record.
Yeah.
Even though it was already pretty bad.
So speaking of Philly, it looks like the NBA Rookie of the Year is going to be Michael Carter-Williams.
I've heard that throughout most of the season. I don't know if anyone else had emerged, but he certainly had a stellar rookie campaign. And I know we both bleed orange.
Yep.
And you bleed orange all over the place all of the time. But I sure wish Jeremy Grant or Ennis had decided to stay one more year. But Carter Williams certainly, by staying that extra year, and he darn near transferred after his freshman year, as I recall, out of Syracuse. He was upset for so little playing time.
Oh, yeah. He's behind Scoop.
I think it was Deion Waiters who told him, wait your turn and it'll work out for you. And it sure has.
Oh, yeah, well, and that's the other thing, too. You go to a place like Philadelphia, you get immediate playing time, and you get to do your thing, whereas if he gets drafted on, to one of the better teams later in the first round, he wouldn't be Rookie of the Year because he wouldn't have had the playing time.
But I think that other thing you mentioned a couple of minutes ago, and not that it's going to change, but both you can mention basketball, baseball, and hockey regular seasons, way too long. And the NFL season, while America can't seem to get enough of it, I think is also bordering on that when they talk about adding yet another game or two.
Enough's enough. Everybody's pushing the envelope because that's how you generate more revenue. And sports has become business, and I don't think anybody looks at the big picture, and like, for instance, I've always said the NFL is the most popular league, but it's not because the game of football is that much more enjoyable than the game of basketball or even baseball. It's that they play once a week. So if you want to follow the league and you want to follow your team, you can literally watch every single game of your team, and you can, follow the whole league. It's digestible. Whereas in the NBA or Major League Baseball, you can't. A baseball fan follows their team by watching a game here and there, looking at the box scores. A hardcore Yankee fan isn't going to watch 162 games, but they're going to follow along. But for the average fan, that's not digestible. So I think that's why the NFL is popular, not because people want like the violent hits and the. I like football, the game, but I like baseball and basketball too. But I just think it's more digestible. Same thing with college football. It's just once a week. They're playing 10 games in a season. So it's truly an event when you if you're going to a game in football every single week.
I kind of looked at baseball as more like comfort food.
Yeah,
it's
you're
there. Home, you're relaxing in your easy chair. You turn on the baseball game. You may not even be paying that close attention. You fall asleep, so what? But I got to say, Jim, I think baseball, their figures for attendance have a lot more to do with tickets sold than people attending those games. And you look at those Yankee games in that beautiful stadium, and they're nothing right behind home plate. There are nothing but a lot of empty seats on most occasions. Now, when they're playing Boston, it's a little different. But
even that's gotten old.
It's not the rivalry it once was.
Yeah, because like anything, you see it. How many times a year do the Yankees in Boston play? Like 18 times or something?
All of that.
It's just loses a little bit of its luster.
Now, just a quick sidebar on the baseball. Reading an article where the experts are saying thumbs down to Derek Jeter as far as his ability to play even decently this year. I know he got off to a decent start hitting the baseball. My favorite baseball player. He's such a class act, but they're saying the whispers are getting much more common and louder that there's nothing left in his tank, being 40 years old, playing shortstop and coming off that serious ankle rehab.
Well, with all the having to use the roster spots for pitchers with the injuries and stuff, he's been playing a little more than maybe he should. I'd like to see him pace him out, and then if we're in position to make a postseason run, then he'll have one last shot at glory, I suppose. But there's a guy that earned it, whether he should be playing or not. He earned it. He said this is his last season, and so, I'm not going to get down on Derek Jeter. He's basically been the Yankees, for the past 15 years.
His good friend attended yesterday's game, along with his brother.
Who's that, A-Rod?
The Manning brothers.
Oh, no kidding.
Because Peyton he said it might be one of the few chances to see Derek play in person this year for him. Derek or the Yankees didn't have a very good game. In fact, even though I'm consider myself a Yankee fan for years, I just don't expect much from them this year with their infield age.
But I tell you, though, I agree with you on the expectations, but I've enjoyed this Yankees team as much as any in the last 5 years because A-Rod's gone. I can root for these guys.
Yeah, there was the Kentucky Derby had a General A-Rod.
That's right.
In the race, but it was not. It was attributed to somebody else, not the baseball player. Tanaka, however, of course, the pitcher for the Yankees, has generated a lot of excitement. And even when he doesn't have his stellar stuff, and they're saying he's got the best splitter as good as anyone in the game.
Yeah,
he's got a great poise and grasp on the game, and he's 4-0.
Yeah, and huge for the Yanks to find that guy. Imagine if they didn't have him.
Right.
But you hope that Sabathia can turn it around, and it's also another strange thing with the Yankees this year is no Mariano Rivera. It's just it's. I've enjoyed watching the Yankees this year because of it is so much different. But that just is odd not having Rivera come out of the bullpen to close games.
I think what the Yankees have going for them is that division has all decent teams, but I don't think the Red Sox are the team they were a year ago. Nope. Toronto has their struggles. Tampa Bay's had major pitching losses.
Mm-hmm.
I personally, my sneaky pick is the Baltimore Orioles for the American League East.
Well, it's up for grabs, that's for sure. And in baseball, if you can just get into the postseason, you got a chance.
But again, that's let's see. Remember when Jeter hit that home run in the playoffs? I think to defeat the Red Sox some years ago. Mr. November. Now, who wants to think about November baseball, October baseball? We got a ways to go.
Well, that's why I think baseball should cut it back to like 154.
As it was at one time.
Yeah. But, hey, we got to step aside, take a quick break here, hear from the sponsors of the show. When we come back, Dave, I want to talk Syracuse basketball. I want to look ahead to next year.
Okay.
For the fans that bleed orange, the season never ends.
How about Syracuse football?
Well, I'll talk about that, too. We'll be back in about 60 seconds.
Eagle Lake National Bank. Bill Ryan and his team for all of your banking needs. Offices in Union Springs and Aurora.
That's why I said I didn't really prepare too much here, but I wasn't worried.
DA Liquor, Seneca Falls. Amy Padula and her great team will find that right spirit for you every time.
Already.
Tell Amy the dog sent you. Steve Wadhams Enterprises, your employer of choice. Proud supporter of this show and local athletics. Bob and Leslie Ullman, owners of the Ullman Theater, in Lions as well as the Newark Pilots, a minor league baseball team with a major league ballpark. Lizard's Tailgater Lounge, Waterloo, best mott sticks around where you can enjoy a drink and some laughs. SenecaFallsCountryClub.com, awesome 18-hole layout, offering a 12-month payment plan. Home of the toughest par 4 in central New York. Wilson Press, WPress.com. Seneca Falls, Rich Ricky, my good friend, and his team can handle all of your printing and mailing needs. Rich Ricky, Wilson Press, a fine sponsor of Weber This Week.
And welcome back inside the FingerLakes1.com studio on a beautiful Monday morning. Jim Sinicropi, Dave Barnick, talking sports. And Syracuse basketball. We talked about Michael Carter-Williams going pro last year. Nobody wanted him to. Now he's the NBA Rookie of the Year. This year we lose Ennis and Grant. And my take on this is Ennis needed to go because his stock was high. He was a type of player. I'm not sold on him as a superstar NBA player at point guard. I don't know if he can guard these guys. He's a little undersized. He's not particularly physically gifted. So I can't blame him for going now. Jeremy Grant, on the other hand, they're projecting him late first round. He is the prototypical NBA prospect, and so if he comes back next year, dominates with Syracuse, he could move himself into the top 5. But nonetheless, he's gone too. See you later, guys.
Yeah, well, I guess there are only 2 rounds in the NBA draft now, and only the first round money is guaranteed. So if you're being told you're going to be drafted in the first round, I can't deny any of these folks their right to take the money and run, even though to a lot of people who watch, a lot of the games, a lot of the Syracuse games, it's very easy to say, geez, I don't know how they can say this guy's going to be a star or this guy's ready or any of that. That all may be true, but if you're guaranteed several $1 million, now in Grant's case, hardship should not be an issue.
Yeah.
But maybe the back's an issue too, and
yeah, that's true. If it flares up next year,
he could have fallen off the radar entirely. So I'm sorry they're leaving. I hope they change the rule so that they're there at least an extra year from a fan viewpoint. But
I think there needs to be something put into place where a team can draft the rights to a player, but they can stay in school and then go down the road. You can cover the intangibles by taking out insurance policies. But wouldn't it be nice if, the Knicks selected Jeremy Grant this year in the draft, and then they talked and said, well, look, you're going to spend another year in Syracuse, and then you'll come after your junior year. Because
they used to have territorial rights in the NBA drafting years ago.
That wouldn't work anymore.
And that's how the, at the time, Philadelphia Warriors got the rights to a guy by the name of Wilt Chamberlain. If you were in that geographical area, you had first dibs on these different players. But that's going back in history books a long time ago. And also Red Auerbach, greatest NBA coach in history, with no apologies to Phil there. He secured Larry Joe Bird, drafting him a year early because he was actually like a fifth-year senior. So they drafted him with the anticipation of being able to sign him the following year. And I don't remember all the details of that.
So why can't we do that anymore?
They might even call it the Red Auerbach rule. I'm not sure, but I think they got tired of Red one-upping many of his colleagues and pulling those great moves off.
Well, a lot of people are – when this happens, thinks, oh, well, there goes Syracuse. That's great run Syracuse had over the last 5-6 years of being top, 5 and top 10 consistently, going to Elite Eights and Final Fours. That's going to end next year, but, this is not much unlike last year where we lost Dion Waiters and Brandon Trish and James Sutherland, all in the same year. You're like, how can you replace that? You got, an NBA starter in Dion Waiters. You got a 5-year or 4-year starter in Brandon Trish, and then you got one of the best three-point shooters that Syracuse has had in recent history in Sutherland. How can you recover from that? But they consistently do, and they'll do it again this year. Caleb Joseph is coming in to play point guard.
Always wanted to play for Syracuse. I'd read up on him. Loved Syracuse growing up.
And so now he's coming in, and he's not going to have to wait behind Ennis for a year. And Ennis stepped in last year, and now Joseph will do it this year. And I guess he's more of a scorer than Ennis was. More of a shoot first, pass second type of guy, which maybe a lot of people wanted out of Ennis this year. And then we have a big guy named Chris McCullough coming in, who's supposed to be fantastic. He can slide right in and hopefully find some serious minutes at power forward. But then we got our seniors, Rakeem Christmas, and this reminds me of Rick Jackson. And Rick Jackson get a little better every year, and then his junior year he made an impact. In his senior year he was All-America type of caliber player, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the same thing out of Rakeem Christmas. I saw a lot of great things from him this year. It's tough for the big men under Boeheim, And as a senior, I think he's finally going to have some more free reign to do his thing. So the question then comes down to, all these sophomores that we got, B.J. Johnson, Tyler Roberson, Ron Patterson, are they going to make that big leap from freshman to sophomore and contribute? And then is Trevor Cooney...
I was waiting for you to mention Matt Verkey's favorite player.
Is he going to hit some threes next year? He was shooting great at the beginning of the year. Last year.
Then he teased us with one great game against Notre Dame.
And that was it. He really, couldn't hit the rim sometimes, and it's hard to understand.
I think you mentioned players' names, and I couldn't even remember some of them who didn't play.
Yeah.
And we have to, as Syracuse fans, hope one or two of them really come through. The jury is out because Boeheim did not give them many minutes. He had stellar players playing in front of them. What I'm hearing is two superb recruits, you mentioned them, coming in, but that Syracuse have difficulty cracking not only not the top 5 in the country, but the top 5 in their conference. But I had also read, and you probably know the names and I don't, that Syracuse's recruiting class for the following year
it's really
is ranked number 1 in the nation. And you know what it gets down to? We were talking NBA and a second season and all that. You want to be good enough to get a ticket to the dance, and then you hope the players catch a little fire, the maturity sets in. I mean, look at this year.
Yeah.
Look at the two teams that made it to the finals. Kentucky preseason number 1, but they were a 30-1 shot to win the title going into the tournament. Connecticut, who did win it, was a 100-1 shot.
Well, and they did it with Connecticut did it with Shabazz Napier, a guy who stayed, a guy who is a true leader and a good guard, all the things that you need to succeed in the NCAA tournament. And to be honest with you, it bothers me to see UConn win another one, and Jim Boeheim still struggling to get his second. And,
of course, I can relate to that. Kevin Ollie certainly has
amazing job.
Got his financial affairs in order now for the future.
They were on probation last year. And he got these guys to stay. Okay, great job by Kevin Ollie. They're talking about Kevin Ollie as a candidate for the Lakers job. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did. And the other thing I'm reading is he is using the NBA interest to parlay what he hopes a doubling of his salary at UConn from $1.25 to $2.5 million a year. And hey, I can't blame him. He was very tenuous as Jim Calhoun's picked successor.
Yeah, well, Calhoun wanted him, and obviously everybody at UConn, I don't think they wanted. They didn't want him, but they're glad they got him though.
And you got to tip your hats to UConn, even if you're a Syracuse fan. I guess better UConn than Georgetown, right, Jim?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to be tipping my hat, Dave, to UConn anytime soon, but yeah, no, it's amazing what they did, and.
But, Syracuse, how about Scott Schaefer's little marketing?
Yeah, let's talk
effort?
Football.
He's saying, you buy a ticket for a game opener, he'll buy the second one for you.
Yeah, well, that opener's against Villanova. So I feel really good about football this year. For the first time, people might be forgetting how bad they were before Doug Marrone came, and then Marrone built it back up, and Schaefer's continuing. And this year's team should be the best that we've had in a long time.
Based on everything you're hearing or experience, returning starters?
Well, we have, first of all, I love Scott Schaefer and his staff, but we got Terrell Hunt is a junior quarterback. We have tons of wide receivers, and we just need 2 or 3 of these guys to step up. We literally have 8, guys that could be in the mix, from Jared West to Cornelius. Tons of receivers. We got great running backs. Prince Tyson Gully, Amin Moore is supposedly going to contribute a little bit this year, and McFarland's another guy. I'm missing one of them though. The kind of the guy that's taken over for Jerome Smith is the Thunder, part of the Thunder and Lightning with Gully.
Who's the kid from Rochester that was
Ashton Broiled? He's going to be at wide receiver, and hopefully he's matured. Brisley Esteem is another one of those H-back type of guys.
Hey, how about the Heisman Trophy winner?
Who's that?
Winston. And
the kid arrested
off the field. He's a baseball player too. He just got reinstated, but
stole crab legs.
He, if you'd say one stupid incident by a young man, you can kind of say, okay, hopefully he learned a lesson. He's had 3 or 4, including one extremely serious one.
Sexual assault.
Sexual assault charges.
Now, he's not going to be a great NFL quarterback, in my mind, because of these things. If you look at the elite NFL quarterbacks, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning,
Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers, and now Russell Wilson in Seattle. These are all guys that are pretty clean-cut, hard-working, stay out of trouble type of guys because they make good decisions. They make good decisions, and Winston here is making bad decisions in college, and you don't see many guys like that have success. Look at like a guy like Ryan Leaf, I suppose. Winston's a talent, but I don't know if he'll be an elite NFL quarterback.
Well, we should probably touch on the NFL draft, and we mentioned popularity of sports and leagues. One of the top stories day in, day out, the Super Bowl was back first week or so in February, but still it's now the NFL draft. I mean, that's getting all kinds of attention. And the other thing is, who will buy the Buffalo Bills? The latest that I had heard is that Tom Golisano is now one of the front runners, which would be great to keep that franchise in Buffalo from all accounts.
But he hasn't done so great with the Sabres.
And our prayers off to Jim Kelly, of course, who's battling that very aggressive form of cancer. Tough stuff there, and we certainly send our best wishes to he and his family as they battle on. And
poor Bills fans, it's got to be especially hard watching Jim Kelly go through this because they haven't been good since Jim Kelly was there, and they were elite. Bills were elite for 6-7 years there, and they didn't win a Super Bowl, but they went to 4 straight Super Bowls.
4 straight
Can you
Super
believe
Bowls.
That?
Really, the far better team, I think, in the first one, beaten by the Giants.
Yeah.
The interesting thing in the mock drafts is one of the players that's being seen as either drafted by the Bills or the Giants is the same. Enbron, I think his name is Eric Enbron, the tight end out of North Carolina. The most electricity in the NFL draft coming up, most attention given, is to, of course, Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
And whether Clowney, the tremendous linebacker from South Carolina, will be the number 1 pick or not. And how about this guy from the University of Buffalo being a possible first pick in the draft, certainly on everybody's mock drafts, rated in the top 5, Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
Coming
out of nowhere.
Kind of crazy, though, what they've done to the draft this year, spreading it out over not 1, not 2, but 3 days.
I know. It takes the fun out of it. I mean, what you're going to get is your hardcore football fans who will plan their whole 3 days around it. To me, I wait. I might watch the first pick or something if I'm available, but I basically wait till it's over and I look at the list. I don't need all the. I mean, that is the most overdone spectacle in sports. Is the NFL draft?
The latest on that is they're talking about changing it from 1 location to 3 in future years. Again, more revenues.
Yeah.
Whatever way of squeezing out the money. But that aside. It will be interesting to see who buys the Bills. Hopefully they stay in Western New York, whether you're a Bills fan or not. I mean, that's an important thing for Western New York's economy,
Yep.
and of course who gets who, and I'm looking forward to seeing who my favorite teams select and where the quarterbacks go.
Yeah, like I say, Dave, I like it. Show me the list when it's over. I'll look and see where everybody went. That's enough analysis for me. It's too much. I turn the channel from SportsCenter when they're doing NFL draft analysis, with the exception of Gruden's QB Camp, which is a fantastic show.
Yeah, well, Gruden is I don't know if I've ever told you, I had the opportunity and met John Gruden along with my
kidding.
son as when the Celtics played the Lakers in the NBA Finals the year, I think it was 2008, and we're standing outside on a beautiful early June day, again, NBA Finals, and turn around, and 7-8 feet from me is John Gruden with a Beat LA sticker on his shirt.
Oh, nice. So you guys immediately bonded.
And I went up to him and said, "Coach, great. Can I get a picture of you with my son?" And he said, "Sure." He treated me like, a long-lost friend. And
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Within 24 hours, my son had that picture on Facebook.
Well, like you say, it's going to be a long, drawn-out draft, NFL draft, but we jumped from Syracuse football to the NFL.
So what do you expect for wins for Syracuse in football?
Well, we got a reasonable schedule. We play Notre Dame at MetLife Stadium, which I'm not a big fan of that. We got Florida State and Clemson. Florida State at home, Clemson on the road, I think, this year.
Tough games.
And then we got, your NC States, your Boston College and Pittsburgh type of teams there. I think that the sky's the limit. You upset a Florida State or Clemson, and all of a sudden now you're in contention for an ACC title, and you're potentially, this year's the first year where we get the 4-team playoff in college football. And so if Syracuse can focus on trying to win the ACC, then all of a sudden they have a chance to. And people are saying you're crazy, that I'm crazy. There is not that big a gap right now between where Syracuse is and Clemson and Florida State is, in my opinion. And
well,
you say, yeah, well, look at last year. Look at the results last year. But we're a different team last year than this year.
What occurs to me, Jim, is we're here first week of May, and we're talking Syracuse basketball and Syracuse football.
Yeah.
And I guess if you want to stick to an orange theme, we
Lacrosse.
should at least mention Syracuse. We should have mentioned upstate New York lacrosse, Syracuse lacrosse, and, of course, Cornell lacrosse. Interesting story there with an interim coach.
Mm-hmm.
And in Division III, Cortland is outstanding, and Ithaca's pretty good.
And if you want to take it further than that, RIT
Yep.
is having a great lacrosse season. And Lemoyne is in the Division II playoffs. So, I mean, this is lacrosse country, but it still doesn't garner the same type of interest as the other sports. And I think that one of the reasons why I was a bigger lacrosse guy when I was younger, back in the days when Syracuse had Tim Nelson and Brad Kotz, and I mean, going way back when I was in school at Syracuse, I had friends on the lacrosse team, Rick Beardsley and Charlie Lockwood, where you wouldn't be friends with basketball players or even football players, but the lacrosse players were more integrated, I guess, into the regular student body, it seemed. So I always liked lacrosse, but I tell you, I don't like the rules in lacrosse. I don't like how a team can hold the ball. I don't like how it comes down to face-offs. If you have a good face-off guy, I mean, that's half the battle. And it just seems, and so they'll send these face-off guys out there. They'll win the face-off, then they'll run off the field. Another guy will come on, and then they'll score, and then they'll have another face-off.
Yeah, I don't know.
Guy wins it again, runs off. I want to see a shot clock in lacrosse. I want to see when the ball gets shot and misses, it's the person closest to the end line when the ball goes out that gets it. I don't like that. If you shoot it, it doesn't hit anybody, it goes out, it should be the other team's ball. Just like basketball. And when you score a goal, the other team should take it out the other end like basketball. That is, hey, some pretty strong opinions.
Well, speaking of shot clock, and I don't know the rules to lacrosse any more than I do. All I know, if it goes in the net, similar to hockey or soccer, it's a goal.
Yep.
But you think the shot clock will get set back 5 seconds in the college basketball, much like the girls?
Well, Boeheim's for it, so I'm for it. You know, I don't think you want to go all the way to 24 like the NBA,
No,
but I think 30 is a
30 would
good
be
number.
wouldn't it?
I think
Get that scoring up.
Yeah, and that's kind of hampered college basketball in recent years. It's low scoring, uglier games. But you know, that's a product of the officiating and the talent, I think. You know, in the game today, less than the shot clock. What's 5 seconds really going to do, right?
A few more possessions per game. The NBA, by changing their officiating style, have increased scoring, and I think that's benefited that game from less of a slugfest than it used to be. Although the reviews are driving me crazy in most sports. The length of time it takes, the stoppages of the flow, whether it's college or pro basketball, football, of course, how long they can be. Now baseball, although positive to that is the Boston Red Sox seem to be on the short end of some of those calls. But
the college basketball this year, the reviews were ridiculous. It was worse than any sport. The stopping to look at the time and set the right time, and the reviewing of like the elbows for the flagrants and all this stuff. College basketball was the worst because these refs would be over there for what seems like, you're sitting at home, you're watching the replay, you're like, okay, yeah, set the game clock to 4.7. They're over there for 15 minutes. I mean, I don't understand and I think that the big mistake that every sport makes with instant replay is they involve the on-court officials too much. There should be someone in a booth that just makes the call, sends it down within a matter of 5 or 10 seconds, and they go with it.
I agree. No need not to, and hopefully all these sports will evolve with this. I hate the flow of the game being taken there. If you go to any of these games in person, you already know that even without those stoppages, how lengthy the games become because of the commercial timeouts.
And it was actually, I think it might have been Colin Cowherd. No, it was actually a local sports radio, 1260 AM, I think Mike Lindsley had on, a former Major League Baseball umpire, and he asked him what he would do to speed up the pace of the game. He said, well, if you ever go to a game, between innings, you'll see the pitcher throw his warm-up pitches and the infielders, toss the ball around a little bit. And then it gets extended for about another minute. He says, if you take a minute off between the in between innings, there's 9 innings, so there's 18 half innings. That's 20 minutes a game. So if you're talking about a game being 3 hours, now all of a sudden it's only 2.5. That's a big difference.
Yeah, because already, I know with myself, if I decide I'm going to take a trip to Rochester or Auburn for a game, I'm already saying to whoever I go with, we're saying, well, maybe we'll stick around 5-6 innings. If it's really good, maybe 7. So, well, before things end today, Jim, I just wanted to mention on the pro golf tours, some kind of nice victories yesterday. One by J.B. Holmes on a terrific course in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm always disappointed when Phil doesn't win, and he had the 3rd-round lead and faltered yesterday. But this guy had 2 brain surgeries in 2011. He'd won twice prior on the PGA Tour in Phoenix.
It's a big guy, muscular.
He hits it long.
Mm-hmm.
So congratulations to J.B. Holmes for that nice comeback. And on the women's tour, Stacy Lewis, 29-year-old feisty American winner. Here's a young lady who had back fusion surgery back, I think, when she was going to college at the University of Arkansas. Coach said, we'll hold your spot, you get taken care of. And she's won 9 times now on the LPGA Tour.
Which is huge for the LPGA Tour, who tries to get some American players back in the mix, where we're getting all the Far Eastern players who, as American viewers, it's harder to follow because there's a language barrier, and it's harder to identify, I guess, for Americans. So for the LPGA, someone like Stacey Lewis having success is very important.
And then locally, of course, Big Jim Sinicropi breaking 80 on an early May morning. That's pretty
It was
impressive.
windy and cold, very windy, but I got to tell you, we rolled it everywhere. We were moving it in the rough, so it's not really real golf, but I will contend that with all the wind that it was still a pretty good round.
I think that's awesome, and I hope in the near future I can be out there joining you. So.
Yeah, Dave, you're coming off a knee procedure and trying to. What's the prognosis, Dave? I know that you don't like being laid up like this.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping. I don't know about this following. Maybe in 2 weeks I'll be out there going at it, trying to put my body pieces together and keep them together for a while.
Well, it's like
all these other sports we were talking about that I once participated in may be taking their toll.
Yeah, it's it's one thing. Played tons and tons and tons of basketball growing up, and now my knees ache a little bit.
The thing for you, Jim, is you have to dress appropriately, behave appropriately when you attend basketball games, because I know how dangerous that is for you when exciting things happen at Syracuse games, because I witnessed that earlier this year where down goes Frazier and nearly down went Sinicropi.
Yeah, I did. I turned my ankle pretty bad, and we were still undefeated at that point when we beat NC State in the Dome at the buzzer.
It was a remarkable year.
And then that really went downhill after that, though. They lost to BC the next game, and the rest was history. Kind of sad closing to what was such a great start to a season.
Yeah, and the team that beat them in Dayton, we're saying who's Dayton, but they, of course, showed all the pundits that team could play. They had players. All these teams have players now. So
yeah, because the best players are gone to the NBA. So you got Dayton with 4-year players, and you got Syracuse with freshman, sophomore, and Duke with freshman, sophomore.
It's when they talk about Syracuse's cupcake schedule, these people really don't know what they're talking about. Everybody schedules teams they're going to be favored over. It becomes a money thing for both schools. But even these lower echelon teams, they have a couple studs on their team, and
yeah,
and can make life difficult for even the big fellas.
It's not like the 80s when you would see Hakeem Olajuwon and Patrick Ewing. There's 4-year players. Was Hakeem 4 years? I think he was.
I believe he was.
Can you imagine that? If a guy like Hakeem Olajuwon today, he would be gone.
He had that other great Clyde the Glide.
Clyde Drexler, yeah, sure.
Was on that team.
Phi Slamma Jamma.
Yeah, they were kind of like the Buffalo Bills version of college football in that their college basketball.
They lost to Georgetown one year.
They had great teams that almost won it.
Yeah, great teams. NC State 1 year beat them, right? That was the year.
Yes.
The alley-oop year.
The pass.
Yeah.
Is the one. I forgot. Was that Whitner that threw up that shot? I'm trying to remember who.
Wittenberg alley-oop to somebody.
Well, he missed the shot.
Yeah, he threw it up.
It's a pass.
Yeah, it was a great pass. It was a great pass.
Another nice story. That those 30 for 30 shows on ESPN, which are all exceptional.
Yeah.
I did not know until I began reading Bill Simmons' his book, the book on basketball. He's an ESPN analyst, great basketball mind and humorist. He came up with the idea for those shows.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Well, hey, it's a brilliant idea because they are highly regarded.
They are. And speaking of Syracuse, of course, the Requiem for the Big East was another exceptional.
One of the best
done show.
One of the best, and that one really, that was a real treat for any, old school Big East fan, or especially Syracuse fan. And obviously highly recommend that to anybody who hasn't seen that yet. But Dave, we're coming up now here on about 50 minutes. We're gone a little bit long, but that's easy to do when we get talking sports. Want to thank you very much for filling in and having you back up here in the studio. Hope for a speedy recovery, get you back out on the golf course, and I love talking to you. Thanks for spending Monday morning with me.
Fill in for the big web dog, and thanks for having me, and look forward to seeing you and the rest of the people out and about.
So next week, Web Dog returns with Wes Greco to talk Geneva disc golf, and for Dave Barnick, I'm Jim Sinicropi, and here's hoping that you have a great week in the Finger Lakes. The sun's finally shining.
FingerLakes1.com. Visit patreon.com/FL1.
Finger Lakes One.